Hey guys, tonight, we slip into the muddy boots of a medieval villager. Not a noble knight, not a royal scribe, but someone caught stealing a loaf of bread, or maybe just saying the wrong thing too loudly. The air smells like hay, smoke, and something less pleasant. You've just been found guilty, and you're sentenced to stocks. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're listening. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your hands slide into two rough-cut holes. Then, your ankles. Wood clamps down, like a stubborn barn door. It's heavy and splintery, already damp from last night's rain. Now your fingers feel numb. You're stuck, completely stuck. Not in a cozy, wrapped up in bed sort of way, but in a twisted version of community punishment, where the real torture isn't the restraint, it's the public. You're placed in the village square, prime real estate right next to the well, and the bakery. The smells taunt you, fresh bread, roasted meat, and the birds. Well, they've clearly mistaken your head for a very unlucky perch. People pass by, some laugh, others shake their heads, like you're a walking or rather, sitting lesson. A few children toss pebbles, or old fruit at you, giggling when one hits. You can't wipe your face, you can't scratch an itch, you can't move at all really. One sneeze, and you just pray it doesn't linger. Now, contrary to what you might picture, this wasn't just a quick time out with a slap on the wrist. Some people were left here for hours, others for days, rain or shine, cold or heat. You'd think the worst part would be the physical pain, but no, it wasn't. It was the shame, the humiliation, and sometimes, just sometimes, the rats. In medieval England, the stocks were technically considered a lesser punishment. The logic was simple. If they didn't draw blood, it wasn't that bad. But try telling that to someone shivering through a stormy night, while teenagers mock their missing teeth, or call them names, they'll remember for years. Here's a strange but true tidbit. In some villages, you were expected to pay the town for the privilege of being locked in their stocks. Imagine being fined for your own public punishment. That's like getting charged a cover fee to be insulted at a comedy show, where you're the only act, the only joke, and nobody claps. And what were you punished for? Oh, the list was long and oddly creative. Petty theft, slander, drunkenness, even bad baking. Yes, seriously. If your bread didn't meet local standards, you might find yourself immobilized with a sign around your neck that read, "This is what happens when you cheat your neighbors with small loaves." Historians still debate, were stocks meant to deter crime, or were they simply social control? A way to keep everyone in line with a blend of fear, shame, and just enough laughter to soften the cruelty. After all, what better way to maintain order than to turn punishment into part of the market day festivities? There's something chillingly effective about how simple it all is. No gallows, no sword, just wood, a crowd, and time. Lots of time. You begin to ache. Of course you do. Your shoulders cramp, your legs go numb. But more than that, your pride dissolves, bit by bit, like mist, rising and fading in the morning sun. Sometimes a kind soul might offer you water, or maybe a scrap of bread. But that generosity, it wasn't guaranteed. It depended on the nature of your crime and the swirling rumors around it. Were you wrongly accused? Too bad. Most villagers assumed guilt. Justice wasn't blind. It was nearsighted and fed by whispers. At night it only gets worse. The crowd thins, but the cold, it stays. The stars come out, twinkling above a sky that doesn't care about your aching joints. Maybe someone throws a blanket over your shoulders. Maybe not. You think of warm hearths and stew and wonder how long this will last. By morning, if luck favors you, the bailiff or beadle comes with a rusty key. The stocks creak open, your joints scream. As you stretch, for the first time in hours, your face is swollen and stiff. You don't walk away proud. You limp, quiet, sore, but technically free, sort of. Everyone still knows. Everyone still remembers. The stocks may release your body, but your reputation, it remains shackled for far longer. And this wasn't just a European affair. Colonial America, especially Puritan communities, loved the stocks. They saw them as a godly reminder of proper behavior, paired with a healthy dose of community shame. Sometimes, they'd even add a signboard detailing your crime, just in case someone missed the gossip. Drunkard, blasphemer, or my personal favorite, idler. Yes, doing absolutely nothing could earn you a very public something. And here's an image to think about. Some stocks were designed to force you to face backwards so you were eye to eye with every single person who passed, like a medieval version of the world's most awkward meet and greet. Now you might wonder, did anyone ever try to escape? Rarely. Once you were locked in, you weren't going anywhere, not without help or a dislocated shoulder. And if someone did try to break you out, well, they'd probably end up in the stocks right next to you. Double the trouble, double the shame. The oddest part, despite all its cruelty, the stocks weren't entirely hated. In small villages, they became a kind of theater. You might hear laughter in the square as someone yelled jokes at a neighbor stuck in the wood. It was punishment wrapped in a picnic, a twisted kind of entertainment for the whole family. But make no mistake, being in them wasn't funny. Not to you. Your muscles would tell stories long after you got up, and the glances from your neighbors, they'd linger even longer. So here you are, finally freed, wrists bruised, knees stiff. Maybe someone claps you on the back and laughs. Hope you learned your lesson. Maybe someone else spits at your feet and walks away. Either way, your place in the town has shifted. You've worn the shame, and now you carry it. You stumble home, whatever's left of it. You'll need sleep, but the pain keeps you awake, and so do the whispers, the knowing looks, because in this world, punishment wasn't just physical, it was memory, and memory, as we'll see, can be crueler than any wooden frame. The wooden post stands tall, at the center of the square, sun-bleached and scarred from years of use. You're dragged toward it, wrists bound, your feet kicking up little puffs of dust, as villagers gather, with that all-too-familiar mix of boredom and curiosity. This isn't your first time seeing a whipping, but it's the first time you'll be hearing it from such an intimate distance. You're tied to the post, with ropes that bite into your skin. The executioner, bored, chewing a sprig of something bitter, unrolls a thin leather whip. It's not the massive cinematic kind. No, this one is deceptively simple, but when it cracks through the air, it sounds like a split in the sky, and it lands. The pain isn't sharp at first. It blooms like fire, trapped under your skin, spreading out in a burning spiral. You gasp, not loudly, just enough to remind yourself that breath is still possible, that you're still here. This wasn't a rare punishment. Whipping was as common as market stalls in medieval towns, for theft, for lying, for gossip, for blasphemy, basically anything that could disturb the peace. Public peace, that is, your own personal peace, that was entirely your problem. What made whipping especially cruel was how calculated it was. The number of lashes wasn't random. It could be 5, it could be 50, and sometimes the crowd would count along, like a grim little sing-along. With every strike, 12 they'd shout, and somewhere, a child would clap, not really understanding what they were witnessing. Whipping wasn't just punishment, it was performance. Your bare back, the rhythm of the strikes, the red lines rising, like angry vines across your skin. It was theater, a morality play, with real blood, and no intermission. Here's your quirky bit of the night in some towns. Women were whipped only with birch rods, instead of leather whips, not out of mercy, but for decency, because bruises apparently were more appropriate than welts. Historians still debate whether these distinctions were acts of compassion or just social control wrapped in a lace veil of hypocrisy. Sometimes the punishment came with accessories. You'd wear a scarlet letter stitched into your clothes, T for thief, A for adulterer. Sound familiar? Nathaniel Hawthorne didn't invent that idea. The aim was to make your crime walk with you long after your wounds had closed. After all, pain fades, but shame, that stays. The whip cracks again. You squeeze your eyes shut. Not from pain this time, but from the smell. Your own sweat, the iron scent of blood, and beneath it all, the faint aroma of stew wafting from a nearby home. Someone's cooking through your punishment. Life goes on, and that somehow feels worse than the lash. And then there are the kids. Oh, the kids. They gather nearby giggling, or pretending to wince in solidarity. You spot one, mimicking the whip with a stick, playing executioner in the dirt. You wonder if they'll grow up kinder, or just more efficient. The law didn't always require a trained professional for this job. In smaller towns, the duty might fall to the constable, or even a volunteer. Imagine your neighbor whipping you. Imagine sharing a fence with him afterward, nodding politely as you both water your gardens. Worse yet, in some places, the victim had to pay for the whip. Yes, you bought the very tool used against your back. Bring your own rope wasn't just a thing for boat docks, apparently. And punishment didn't stop at your skin. The aftermath was its own sentence. Walking home. You'd bleed through your shirt if infection set in, and it often did. That little punishment could turn into a slow, painful decline. There were no antibiotics, just prayers, and maybe some questionable herbs from a local healer who smelled strongly of onions and regret. Sometimes, though, the community turned gentler. After the pain was done, a few folk might offer bread, a strip of cloth, or a hesitant smile. Medieval guilt had layers. It wasn't always cruel, just deeply flawed. In London, whipping posts stood at crossroads, prime locations for maximum foot traffic. People commuting to work or worship would get a full view of justice being served, raw, twitching. They'd nod in approval or shake their heads, depending on who you were and what story they'd heard. The church had its own version of discipline. Flagellation, they called it. But that was self-inflicted. Monks whipping their own backs to chase out sin. Somehow, society saw that as holy, while your punishment was just deserved. Maybe the difference was in the chanting. You lose count of the lashes, your legs buckle slightly. Someone scoffs, only 20 and already wobbling. You want to reply, to explain, but your throat feels like it's full of dust and straw. You clench your jaw and breathe in shallow sips, waiting. The next lash doesn't come. There's silence. You wait again. Still, nothing. The whip has stopped. The executioner gives a shrug, wipes his brow, and walks away like he's just finished pruning a hedge. Someone unties your wrists, slowly. The rope leaves angry bands on your arms, red and white. You fall forward, but a stranger, an old woman with kind eyes, catches you, just enough to keep your face from kissing the dirt. She whispers something soft, in a dialect you don't fully understand. You want to thank her, you really do, but your voice feels far away, so you nod instead. By evening, the post stands alone again, but it remembers you. The wood remembers all of you, and tomorrow someone else will take your place. You're not tied to a post this time. You're not even standing. You're kneeling. The stone is cold beneath your knees, damp, unforgiving. The air around you smells like rust and old water, like the memory of blood on metal. You breathe in, slow, sharp, and then you see it. A cage. Not the square kind you'd find in a dungeon. No iron bars and straw floor. This one is shaped like a person. Crude iron ribs, hunched and narrow, twisted into a mockery of the human form. It sways just slightly, in the evening wind, groaning on its rusted chain. A ghostly cradle. It's called a gibbet, and tonight, it is waiting for you. But strangely, you're still alive, still breathing. For now, you're not dead yet. They haven't killed you, because gibbeting or hanging in chains wasn't always about death. Sometimes it was, but often it was about something slower, something quieter, a message. See, gibbeting was meant to display, to warn. The worst criminals were sometimes put on show after their execution, locked in iron cages, and left to rot in public places, like a sign that read, "This is what becomes of the wicked." But there were darker times, crueler moments. Sometimes they locked you inside, alive, You'd be hoisted up in the air, stuffed into the iron shell. Your body bent, twisted, made to fit a frame. That did not welcome you. You couldn't stand, couldn't lie down, couldn't breathe right. You just hung like a broken puppet. There was no food, no water, just time and wind and birds. At first, it's the crows. They come at dawn. They circle. They wait. Then one lands bold and black and watching. It tilts its head. It studies your face, your eyes. It hops closer, closer still. Then, it pecks. Your hands are bound by the cage. Your shoulders are cramped. You flinch, but you cannot stop it. You try to scream, but the sound sticks in your throat. Already too dry. No one answers. No one listens. The iron creaks, a long-drawn moan that sounds almost like speech. But the only words here are the whispers of the wind, the hush of leaves, and the scrape of claw on flesh. Villagers pass below. Children stare with wide, silent eyes. Parents tug them away. They don't ask who you were. They tell stories instead. You were a pirate, a thief, a murderer, or just someone who crossed the wrong man, someone who said the wrong thing to the wrong ears. Because truthfully, sometimes gibbeting wasn't about justice. It was about revenge, about fear, about control. There's an old record from the year 1742, not quite the Middle Ages, but still cruel times. A man named Alexander Gill was gibbeted alive for arson. His cage was raised on a hill, visible from miles around. He lasted days. No one helped. Birds came, rain fell, his voice faded, then silence. Even today, historians argue, was live gibbeting ever official? Some say it was only after death, a public display. Others say it was sometimes punishment in itself, a slower kind of execution, a warning, with breath still rattling in the chest. But whether alive or dead, the result was the same, a body in the wind, a skeleton for the crows, a horror show. And it wasn't just the man who suffered. The land below the gibbet grew cursed. In the eyes of the village, people avoided it. Cows refused to graze near it. Grass turned yellow. Birds screamed louder there, or so they said. Stories clung to the frame, long after the bones were gone. And in some places they didn't stop with the iron. They tarred your body first. Yes, tar, sticky, black, boiling pitch, meant to seal your flesh against the rain, meant to preserve you longer. You'd glisten in the sun, shine under the moon, a monument of horror, a scarecrow, but for people. And now, your thoughts drift to the metal pressing your spine, the way it bites into your skin, the way your jaw droops forward, heavy on your chest. You cannot raise your head. Your legs are asleep. Your arms burn. Sweat trickles, but cannot fall. Inside the cage, the air turns thick, rancid, a bubble of rot and breath and heat. You wonder, will sleep come? No, but thoughts will. You think of the path that led here, the risks taken, the hands you trusted, the betrayal. You try to believe you were right, that your choices mattered, but belief fades with the night. Now comes the darkness. The stars rise, indifferent. They blink above, half hidden by the bars of your metal tomb, like watching through the cracks of a prison door. And with the stars comes the cold. It slips between the iron bones, wraps around you, sinks into your spine. Your feet tingle, your teeth chatter, but there is no space to curl into. You are open, exposed. Morning comes, slowly, and with it the aches. Your body feels like it belongs to someone else, heavy, bruised. Your tongue is cracked, your lips stick together, your eyes burn with salt and dust. Voices return. Some laugh, some cry. One woman gazes up at you, with no expression at all. She stands still long enough that you start to hope, but then she walks away, and that hope shatters like brittle glass, because you're not here to be helped, you're here to be seen. This wasn't about mercy, it wasn't about redemption, it was about spectacle. The gibbet was placed at crossroads, near city gates, on high hills, anywhere people could not miss it. It said, this is what happens when you break the rules, and it said it without ever speaking. There's a cruel irony, isn't there, in life? Maybe you were forgotten. But in the cage, you become legend. Children whisper your name in ghost stories. Lovers use your fate in threats. Lie to me, and you'll end up like him. You've become a proverb, a shadow, cast long after sunset, and even the cage remembers you. When your bones are gone, burned, buried, or taken by wind, the gibbet still stands, empty, but not forgotten, rusted, hollow, moaning. When storms pass through, birds still perch on it, the wind still hums through it, and someone, somewhere, is walking a path you once walked, cloak drawn tight, eyes darting left and right, wondering if their sins will lead them here too, because eventually, your body will give up, your breath will slow, your heart will falter. No drum, no scream, just silence. The cage will creak once more, the birds will scatter, and then someday, not long after, someone else will take your place. Because the gibbet never stays empty for long. Your ankles are shackled, your wrists bound behind you. You shuffle forward, step by awkward step, led by two men in drab tunics. Their boots scrape the stone, steady, uncaring. They don't speak, they don't need to. Their grip tells you all you need to know. Ahead in the cold glow of the torchlight stands what looks like a heavy wooden bench, but not the kind meant for resting. There are no cushions, no backrest, no comfort, only an iron crank in the center, gleaming faintly, waiting. Welcome to the rack. It sounds innocent, doesn't it? Almost rustic, like something you might find in a workshop, or beside a warm hearth, someplace safe. Maybe it's for drying clothes or storing tools. But this is different. This bench doesn't hold things. It stretches them, stretches people, limb from limb, until the body itself becomes a question. A quiet one, a brutal one. How far can skin go before it says no? They lay you down carefully, like a butcher laying out meat. Your arms are pulled above your head, your legs drawn tight below. Leather straps close around your wrists and ankles. They hug like they mean it, like they intend to stay. Then, slowly, the crank groans once, twice, and your body follows. At first, it's just tension, a pull, like that deep stretch when you rise from sleep. But this doesn't end in relief. No satisfying pop of the joints, only strain. Then something inside begins to whisper, not out loud but deep in the joints, in the sinews, the quiet corners of the body, where pain has patience. With every turn, your arms reach farther from your shoulders. You feel the slow separation, first in the elbows, then the hips. It doesn't roar, it doesn't scream, not yet. It simmers. The panic doesn't arrive with trumpets. It creeps up the spine like smoke from a dying fire. The man turning the crank, he doesn't hate you. Not really. He's just doing a job. He yawns between turns, adjusts his grip. The rack wasn't only a tool of pain, it was a tool of persuasion. Yes, this is about confession. Medieval law loved a confession. It didn't much care how you gave it. A whisper in the dark, a cry under pressure, a sob between turns. If it came out of your mouth, it was taken as truth. And the rack was a very good listener. Where did you hide the money? I don't know, you managed to say. Your lips are dry, your vision already double. Crank. What did you do with the relic crank? Each turn pulls you farther from denial, closer to something else. But it's not the truth. It's exhaustion. You begin to long for unconsciousness, for the quiet mercy of blackness. Sweet, painless, nothing. Here's a strange detail. Some early racks had adjustable gears. For mercy. A clever little innovation. The torturer could tighten your joints right to the brink, holding you in a scream, without quite breaking the bones. Not yet. They didn't want you to die. Not before you talked. Historians still argue where the rack first appeared. Was it a medieval creation or a darker echo from Roman platforms? Long forgotten. The earliest confirmed versions show up around the 13th century, but whispers of earlier ones linger in scattered texts. Devices meant to disappear people often leave little behind. You are not the first on this bench. The grooves in the wood tell silent stories. Scratches where heels scraped, cracks where wrists twisted, a dark stain near the base. It might be ink, but you know better. Under torture, confession wasn't just allowed, it was expected. Judges wanted closure, inquisitors wanted names, kings wanted order, and the scream was faster than a trial. Even if you were innocent, especially if you were innocent. You think of that now. Maybe you insulted the wrong noble, refused to give up your land, or held on to a relic someone else desired. Maybe you just knew too much, and now you're unraveling, inch by inch, your body betraying its shape, becoming something else. The crank pauses. One man leans in his breath, warm and sour. Still nothing. You try to shake your head, but even that small motion burns. Fine, he mutters, more annoyed than angry. To him, your silence is inconvenient. In some parts of Europe, the rack was technically legal under conditions. England banned it officially in the early 1600s, but not before it dislocated countless arms and truths. In France, it played its role during inquisitions. In Germany, they added bells to signal progress, not for cheer, for milestones of pain. The crank resumes, a slow, steady rhythm. Your spine lifts slightly from the board. Your toes twitch in directions they were never meant to move. And your thoughts scatter. You think of apples, of grass, of your sister, braiding your hair when you were small. These memories rise through the fog, like lost ships, their sails catching fragments of who you were. Somewhere beyond the walls, a bell tolls. Midday, maybe. You can't be sure anymore. Minutes have become elastic. Time stretches, like your limbs. You've cried, quietly. That alone is a kind of victory. The rack didn't always kill, but it always changed you. Even if you lived, your joints would never heal right. Shoulders out of place, hips twisted, elbows soft at the bend. You'd walk like someone who lost a fight with the wind. Here's another haunting detail. Sometimes, a scribe would stand nearby. He'd write what you said, every word, even the screams. It was considered part of the record, an official document of pain. Eventually, the wheel stops. You hang in that cruel tension like a bow drawn too far. String, ready to snap. Then at last, one man sighs and releases the lever. Slowly, mercifully. You're lowered, not unbound, just relaxed. But your arms stay where they are. Too long, too limp. When someone tries to lift you, your shoulders pop. Once, twice, softly, like the cracking of knuckles in a silent room. You don't make a sound, there's none left. They carry you off the bench. You sag in their grip. Your legs do not work. Your joints don't listen. You feel like dough pulled too far, folded too many times. Your vision pulses, your mouth tastes of metal. You smell sweat, wood, iron, and faintly lavender. Someone nearby must be wearing it. The world is strange that way, cruel, but not always in the way you expect. And you are not the same, not anymore, and you never will be. You've heard of putting someone in the stocks, right? It sounds quaint, like something that might happen at a Renaissance fair, with lutes playing, and someone getting a pie to the face. A silly joke, a photo opportunity, something old-timey and harmless, like jesters or turkey legs. But tonight, as you're led barefoot into the village square, your arms bound behind you, your breath trembling in the cool evening air, you realize this is no carnival act. This is real. The stocks are already waiting. They sit at the edge of the square, half in shadow, half lit by flickering torches. Two thick wooden boards, worn smooth by time and use, rest on a squat wooden frame. Hinges creak as they open. There are 3 round holes carved into the top, 2 for your ankles, and 1 perhaps for your pride. When they snap shut around your legs, it's not just your feet they trap. They capture your ability to move, to walk away, to hide, to pretend you're not part of this moment. You sit there, locked in place, back aching from the awkward position, exposed, visible, a human signpost, a breathing warning, and punishment hasn't even started yet. Because here's the truth about the stocks, something many forget. The stocks weren't the punishment, you were. People begin to gather, one by one, then in clusters. Their footsteps echo against the cobblestones. Some whisper, others point. Some stare in silence with unreadable expressions. A few frown, more than a few grin. A boy no older than 10 laughs as he picks up a half-rotted cabbage. He hurls it at your shin. It misses and rolls into the dust. He laughs harder and tries again. This time it hits. A woman spits. A man with calloused hands and stained sleeves throws a scoop of something wet and sour. You flinch instinctively, but you can't dodge. You are a public lesson now, a living example of how not to behave. The stocks were a common part of medieval justice. They were used for minor crimes, small acts that didn't quite warrant the whip, or the noose, theft, drunkenness, blasphemy, gossip, missing church, public brawling, even singing the wrong kind of song at the wrong time. Petty sins were punished with public shame, and shame, in those days, was as sharp as any blade. Historians still debate were the stocks ever used as a first step before harsher sentences, or did they stand alone, an effective, cheap, unforgettable method of correction? What's certain is this: they worked. At first, it's just uncomfortable. Your calves ache, your back begins to cramp, your legs fall asleep in strange places. But then the sun shifts in the sky, and the insects arrive. The flies, the gnats, the tiny things that bite and land and buzz, and you can't move to swat them away. Soon comes the boredom, the hunger, the endless waiting, the need to scratch, to blink, to breathe without flinching. You sit in the center of the world, but you are utterly alone, and that's when regret settles in. Even for the truth. You once stole a chicken, didn't you? Just once. It was hungry weather. And yes, maybe you were drunk that night at the tavern. Said something about the mayor's nose. Something loud, something poetic, something that made your friends laugh. Well, this is your answer. Here's your quirky fact for the night. Some towns allowed family or friends to pay a small fee to decorate the stocks with flowers or ribbons. If the prisoner was beloved, or the offense seen as humorous, the public might soften. A garland, a pie, a kind word. Other towns not so generous. In those places, the locals brought spoiled food, dead rats, sharp pebbles, and yes, buckets of human waste. You shift your legs, the wood bites back. A sliver wedges itself into your ankle. You wince, but your hands are tied behind you. There's no way to reach it. Each hour stretches out like taffy. Not like the rack with its violent pull and sudden agony, but something slower, more psychological. A soft, patient unraveling of your dignity. In some regions, the stocks even became timekeepers. Free market bells in the stocks, they'd say. Or leave him until the sun kisses the west wall. Vague measurements for very real suffering. But this wasn't just about physical pain. It was about presence, visibility. People needed to see you suffer. That was the point. Punishment in the Middle Ages was rarely private. Quiet justice made people uneasy. Too easy to fake, too easy to forget. But if the whole town watched you drool, sob, sit in shame, then justice was confirmed. And maybe, just maybe, improved by a little laughter. Children mimic your slouch. An old woman throws a worn slipper. A drunk man stumbles close. He says something unintelligible before wandering off. You try to find a kind face. Someone, anyone, but no one meets your eye. Because today, you are not a person, you are a lesson. One day in the stocks, maybe two. It depends on the magistrate's mood and how good his supper was. That's usually all it takes, but the bruises last longer. The soreness, longer still. And the shame, sometimes never leaves. You wonder now, was it worth it, that stolen chicken, that clever little rhyme about the mayor's wife? You were proud once. You strutted into town with a swagger and a smirk. But now, your ankles are bleeding, your lips dry and cracked, and you are not laughing. You tilt your head back, let your eyes follow the clouds. For just a moment, you pretend this is something else. You're sunbathing maybe, stargazing, lounging in a park with friends. Then, a tomato slaps against your cheek and bursts. Ah, reality. Still, not everyone hated the stocks. In some communities, the frame became a place of strange redemption. Some prisoners used the time to sing hymns, to apologize, to speak truth. Some swore innocence loudly and often. Sometimes, people listened. Sometimes, forgiveness bloomed. Hope clings, doesn't it? One final historical footnote. In certain towns, stocks were portable, foldable punishment. Yes, you could be placed in a cart, hauled from village to village, and reinstalled at each new square like a shameful traveling exhibit. The sun dips low, the air cools. Finally, a guard approaches. He says nothing, just unlocks the frame. Your feet are stiff, swollen. You try to stand, but your legs don't obey. You topple sideways, into the dirt. No one claps, no one helps, but the townsfolk feel satisfied. Balance has been restored. You limp away, socks soaked, shins bruised, spirit dimmed. People won't forget, they rarely do. But maybe, just maybe, tomorrow you'll get a fresh start, and maybe next time, you'll think twice before crafting poetry about the mayor's wife. You're thrown into a small stone chamber. The walls glisten with slow leaks. Cold moisture runs in jagged veins down the moss-covered bricks. The air is thick, not just with mildew, but with something fouler, a sour rot that clings to the back of your throat and reminds you, this place has hosted many before you. None of them left it well. At first the room seems empty, silent, hollow. But then your eyes begin to adjust. The torchlight flickers, shadows shift, and you see it, a metal cage. It stands upright in the center of the chamber, suspended from a thick iron hook in the ceiling. The cage is human-shaped barely. The bars sketch out the ghost of a body. You see the curve for the head, narrow shoulders, the taper of hips and legs. But it's too small, too tight. There's no space to sit, no way to lie down. You couldn't even stand up straight inside it, which of course is exactly the point. This is a gibbet, not to be confused with a gallows, though the two were often partners in cruelty. You see, the gallows kill, but the gibbet makes sure no one forgets. You died. You're pushed forward. Your hands are bound behind you. The guards don't speak. They don't need to. There will be no trial, no priest, no last words, just a sentence already decided, a crime already assumed. Maybe you stole something. Maybe you muttered the wrong words about the wrong noble. Maybe you sailed on the wrong ship, under the wrong flag. Perhaps you were simply in the way. The truth doesn't matter now. What matters is this: you are to be gibbeted, alive. They lift you, not gently. They shove you forward and hoist your body into the waiting frame. The iron groans. As you're crammed inside, your arms are pinned to your sides. Your knees bend, your neck strains, your spine curves unnaturally. There is no room to move, barely enough room to breathe. They close the cage with thick rusted locks, and then they raise it. The chain creaks as it pulls you upward, higher, higher, until you're dangling, suspended several feet above the ground, like some terrible wind chime, groaning softly with every gust of wind. This punishment is not about pain, not really. It's about visibility. From here you can see the village. More importantly, the village can see you. Gibbets were often placed where people passed most crossroads, ports, bridges, city gates, anywhere with traffic. They served as a warning to all who saw, this is what happens when you break the rules. This is what happens when you question power. Historians still debate the purpose. Was the gibbet a method of deterrence or dehumanization? A final cruelty, layered atop death, or perhaps something worse, the erasure of personhood? What's certain is this: it worked. The memory lingered, literally, even long after the body inside was gone. In England, especially in the 1700s, gibbeting became a favored posthumous punishment. Once someone was hanged, their body might be sealed inside one of these cages, on display for weeks, months, even years. Slowly, bone by bone, the corpse would fall apart. Pirates feared it most. Many begged to be buried at sea instead, desperate to escape that final indignity. But you have not been granted that mercy. Because tonight, you are not a corpse, not yet. Being gibbeted alive was rare but not impossible. It happened. The cage ensured escape was impossible. It trapped you in a standing curl, muscles constantly strained, blood pooling in your feet. Your fingers go numb, your toes ache, and soon, you forget what movement feels like. The animals come first. Crows land above you, claws scraping the metal. Rats scurry at the base. Sometimes they peck. Sometimes they bite. Sometimes They only watch, waiting. You can't shoo them away. You can't swat. You can't twist. You can't scream. You are a feast in a cage, served cold. Then come the people, not always jeering. Some just stare. Some look curious. Some amused. Children point. Women whisper. Men laugh quietly, under their breath. A few throw stones, or bits of bread, or nothing at all, just stares. You hear snippets of their conversations. Sometimes, your name. More often, your crime. Or what they think it was. A boy throws a pebble. It hits your knee. You don't flinch. You can't. Time unravels strangely inside a gibbet. Night and day blur together. You see the sun rise and fall. Feel the warmth fade to cold. And back again. But it all becomes meaningless. Sleep teases you just out of reach. Hunger gnaws. Thirst scrapes like sandpaper against your throat. You dream of water. You dream of shade. You dream of standing on the earth again. Of walking. Of stretching. Of being whole. But mostly, you dream of silence. Eventually you black out, but the gibbet remembers, and it does not let go. In some cases, executioners try to slow the decay. They coated bodies in tar, preserving them, like grotesque museum pieces, hanging reminders of state power, glistening in the sun, dripping into the dirt below. Even death, it seemed, had a performance schedule, but you're still alive. And the nights, oh, the nights are the worst. Cold seeps into your bones like fog. Rain drizzles through the bars, soaking your hair, pooling in your sleeves and shoes. Wind howls. Your teeth chatter until your jaw aches. Sometimes lightning flashes, and for a moment, you're a silhouette of suffering against the sky. A stray dog barks for an hour beneath you. A drunk man salutes you with a rotten apple, then stumbles away, laughing. No one helps. That would defeat the purpose. You stop counting the hours, then the days. There's no calendar up here. Only ache, only wait, only waiting. Somehow, your heart keeps beating, and somehow, you survive. When they finally lower the cage days, perhaps a week later, your body is no longer yours. It is a ruin. Muscles wasted, joints locked, skin pale, soaked, streaked with grime. You don't walk away. You are carried, limp and shivering, wrapped in a ragged blanket, like a broken doll. No one claps, no one comforts. There's no joy in your release, only silence. They don't say you've paid your debt. They don't call you free. They just remove you from the hook, clean the iron frame, and prepare it for whoever comes next. Because punishment in this world is never just a moment. It's a memory. And even now, days later, weeks later, long after you're gone, a part of you still hangs there. The smell hits you first. Not rot exactly. More like wet wood, old blood, and something faintly metallic that clings to the back of your throat. You gag. Instinctively, your stomach tightening in protest. But the guard beside you just chuckles. A low sound that echoes in the narrow corridor. He taps the torch against the damp stone wall as if marking time and gestures for you to keep moving. The shadows jump with each flicker. The air grows heavier. With every step, you've been sentenced to the oubliette. It sounds romantic, doesn't it? French always has a way of softening things, but the root of the word says everything oublié. To forget, not to forgive, not to absolve, just to forget. And now, you are about to be forgotten. You step through a narrow archway, ducking low. The ceiling sweats above you and a drop lands on your neck, like a warning. The floor suddenly gives way to a round hole, deep, dark, its mouth lined with slick stone. It yawns, like a waiting throat. No stairs, no ladder, just a single rope, frayed and wet, which they'll haul back up once you're inside. You hesitate, but someone pushes, you fall. Hard. The descent isn't long, but it feels endless. The air rushes past you. The torchlight vanishes above, and then suddenly impact. The ground catches you after several brutal seconds, if you can call it ground at all. It's muddy, uneven, cold. Your ankle twists beneath you. You cry out, a sound swallowed instantly by the walls. Already, the circle of light above is shrinking, vanishing like the last coin of the day. And then, nothing, only darkness. Oubliettes weren't ordinary cells. They weren't meant to confine. They were meant to erase. Historians still debate whether every dungeon labeled oubliette was truly designed for death, or just a particularly cruel kind of prison. Some believe the term was applied later by storytellers with a flair for drama, but even the skeptics agree it happened. People were locked away in pits like this, with no light, no food, and no audience. And now, it's happening to you. Here's a strange detail. In some castles, the oubliette wasn't vertical at all, but horizontal, a low-ceiling tunnel just big enough to lie down in. No door, only a grate above. Guards would toss scraps through the hole now and then. Sometimes, if you were lucky, or pitied, or if they were feeling merciful, which was rare. You aren't feeling very lucky. Hours pass, or maybe days. You don't know. There's no way to mark time down here. No light, no breeze. Just the stale taste of air and the faint, steady drip of water down the far wall. You shuffle toward it, crawling slowly, fingers searching through slime and stone. Maybe it's drinkable. Maybe it's your last hope, but it's too far. You sit, you crawl, you shiver, you cry, but no one hears. Eventually, you begin to talk out loud, not to call for help. You know better than that, just to remember the sound of your own voice. It comes out strange, echoing against the curved stone. Sometimes it doesn't echo at all, like the walls are swallowing your words. You start to sing instead, old songs your mother used to hum while stirring soup, or hanging laundry by the window. Songs that smelled like home. But your voice grows hoarse, your lips crack. There's no place to lean back, no bed, no straw, just cold mud beneath you, and the heavy presence of stone all around. You wonder how long a person lasts. Without sunlight, without noise, without knowing whether it's morning or night. What part of you fades first, your sense of direction or your sense of self? Some people didn't die in oubliettes. That's the cruel twist. Some were pulled out days later, weeks later, their eyes ruined by even a flicker of candlelight, their minds fragile as paper. They came back, but they weren't whole, their speech slurred, their memories patchy. Some didn't speak at all, just stared at walls for the rest of their lives, as if still waiting for the rope to drop. You hope you're one of those, though right now, you're not sure that's better. The oubliette in Leap Castle, Ireland, for example, wasn't just a pit, it had spikes at the bottom. Victims weren't lowered, they were dropped. That wasn't meant for forgetting, that was meant for ending. Yours thankfully is spike-free, you think, but something brushes your leg. Soft, worn fabric. A bone, you freeze, heart thudding. You don't want to know, you don't dare look. You start counting, not because it helps, but because it's all you can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You lose track, start again. A creak above, a murmur, a voice you call out. No answer, only silence. Your dreams here are wild, strange. They come in bursts of vivid color. Sunsets, firelight, the smell of bread. People you know, or knew. You laugh in your sleep, or scream, and then you wake up and it's black again. Wet again, cold again. Still, no one comes. You forget things, names, faces, what you did to deserve this. A debt, a rumor, an insult. Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe it was just politics, or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You forget what you used to look like. You wonder if your eyes still shine, if you still smile the same. You wonder if you are still you, or if by now, you've been absorbed by the oubliette itself, like the moss creeping over stone, like the mold threading through cracks. And then, one morning, or is it night, the rope returns. It slithers down, like a lifeline from the gods. You don't believe it at first. You stare. Then you crawl toward it, fingers trembling. You laugh, or sob. Or maybe, it's the same sound now. They pull you up, slowly. Your body is limp, barely responding. The torchlight above stabs your eyes. The guards flinch at the sight of you. You haven't spoken in so long, that your voice is a ruin, crumbling into your throat as you try to remember how words work. Someone mutters, "Well, he's paid his due." You look at them, or try to, and you wonder what was your crime. But it doesn't matter. You're not the same person anymore. And that, perhaps, was always the point. You wake up to a crowd, not a pleasant one. They're shouting, hissing, murmuring. You're lying flat on your back. wrists and ankles bound, with something rough beneath you, splintered wood probably. Your head throbs, your arms are numb, and you can't move, not even to scratch the itch growing mercilessly on your nose. Then slowly, you realize where you are. The pillory. At first glance, it doesn't look like much. A wooden frame, with holes for your head and hands, standing waist high in the middle of the square. Harmless looking, almost quaint. But it's not the wood that punishes you. It's what comes with it. The eyes, the heat, the noise, the stares. You hear a child laugh. Then something wet smacks against your cheek. Rotten fruit, or worse, and it begins. Your head is locked forward, chin pressed into the edge of the hole. Your arms jut out in front like broken wings. You can't wipe your face. You can't shield your eyes. You can't look away from the people. People you used to know. The woman who sold you herbs every Thursday. The apprentice from the smithy, now smirking. Even the boy who once called you uncle is among the crowd pointing and laughing. Pillories weren't always about blood or bones. They were about humiliation, public correction, a medieval timeout, only with more tomatoes and far fewer boundaries. The punishment is less about pain and more about exposure. You're not here to suffer silently. You're here to be seen, to be mocked, to become a living warning sign. This is what happens when you steal, when you lie, when you cheat, or speak too freely. Some historians say pillories were a merciful alternative to harsher punishments. Others believe they were only a prelude, a kind of appetizer, before the real torment began. In some towns, they were used daily. In others, they became almost ceremonial. But one thing never changed. The outcome was always the same. Shame, laughter, and just enough cruelty to make sure people remembered. Your crime slander, maybe, or forging a signature. You can't remember now, only that the sentence was 3 days in the square. Dawn to dusk, rain or shine. And today it's sunny. Lucky you. The pillory's design is deceptively simple, but cruel in its own quiet way. Blood rushes to your head. Shoulders burn. Your wrists swell inside the wooden clamps. After a few hours, you start to lose sensation in your hands. But the crowd doesn't lose interest. They bring food. Not for you, of course. For themselves. For the show. Old women shake their heads, whispering curses under their breath. Young men grin like it's a festival. A baker passes by, offers you a crust of bread, then snatches it back with a wink. Next time, don't short me on change, he laughs. You try to respond, but your jaw aches, your mouth is dry, your pride gone. Sometimes, rarely, there's a moment of mercy. A stranger, maybe a mother, maybe just someone tired of the noise, drops a damp cloth over your head to shield you from the sun. It's cool, comforting, but even that small grace doesn't last. A soldier tears it off a minute later with a sneer. No hiding now, he says, because this isn't just about punishment, it's performance. You're the lead role in a morality play. The script is written in silence and spit. The message is simple: behave, or this will be you next Friday. Want a strange detail? In some towns, people bribed guards to make pillory time more bearable. A bit of padding for the neck, maybe a few drops of wine, even a friendly word to the townsfolk. Other times, victims wore disguises, veils, hoods, handkerchiefs to shield their faces, but that usually only made the crowd angrier. They came for a spectacle, not modesty. And of course, there were special cases, famous ones. Take Daniel Defoe, the author of Robinson Crusoe. He was put in the pillory in 1703 for seditious libel, but instead of being pelted with garbage, he was showered with flowers. The crowd adored him. They sang songs in his honor. They turned the punishment into a protest. But that doesn't happen to you. Someone throws a cabbage. It hits your ear, leaves a welt. A child ties your shoelaces together, not that you can move. A group of teenagers smears something sticky on your forehead. You can't see it, but you feel the flies land. Midday comes. The sun is at its peak. Your back aches. Your legs throb. Your hands have gone from numb to painfully swollen. A guard walks past, chewing an apple. He doesn't offer you a bite. You want to cry, or sleep, or disappear entirely. Instead, you just endure, because what else is there to do? When the sun begins to set, the square slowly empties. People go home, back to their dinners, their beds, their conversations. You're still there, exhausted, filthy, burning with shame, aching in places you didn't know could ache. And then at last the latch creaks, the wood opens. You slump forward, too stiff to catch yourself. They don't help you up. They don't speak kindly. They just nod and say, 3 days to go. 3 days, 3 whole days. You want to scream, but your throat is too dry, your lips too cracked, and the sun has taken whatever strength was left in your spine. So instead you lower your eyes, you breathe, and you know, tomorrow, you'll do it all again. Same square, same pillory, same show. And somewhere in the crowd, someone else will be watching. A child, a neighbor, a judge, learning, laughing, forgetting that you were ever more than a warning. You sit perfectly still, not because you want to, but because you have to. Every part of your body is screaming. Your back arches in an unnatural curve, the muscles in your legs trembling under their own weight. Your arms are pulled behind you, tied with painful precision. Skin burning, where the ropes bite. The position alone is a kind of torture, designed to test not just the body, but the soul. You're not in a dungeon this time, not in some dark stone pit filled with rats and echoes. There's no jeering crowd watching from the shadows, no torches, no chains dragging across the floor. Just a chamber, quiet, still, cold, and oddly clean, like a place prepared for something sacred or something unspeakable. You are perched on what they call the Judas chair. Some call it the Judas cradle. Others whisper the name Culpepper's torment, depending on which dusty manuscript or cruel rumor they've heard. Whatever the name, the shape remains the same. Strange, unnerving, unforgettable. At first glance, it looks like an object from a carpenter's nightmare. Part pyramid, part stool. A tall wooden spike carved to a sharp, smooth point, gleaming slightly, with oil, or sweat, or something worse. Beneath it, a narrow platform stands ready, where your feet either dangle helplessly, or are strapped into place, forcing stillness. And you're sitting right on top of it, bare, exposed, in every way. The punishment doesn't start with a scream. It starts with a whisper, a creak of rope and pulley. The guards don't speak. They barely look at you. With the practiced quiet of routine cruelty, they hoist you upward, your body lifted gently above the tip of the pyramid. And then, they lower you, slowly, purposefully. You feel it before you see it, before your brain can even register. The shape, pressing upward into the softest, most private parts of your body. You clench, try to hold yourself aloft, try to resist gravity, to stay above the spike. But your strength is limited, your muscles shake, and then almost inevitably, you drop. Just a little. That's all it takes. The pain is immediate and astonishing. Not a stab but a bloom, stretching, tearing, burning, a sickening blend of sharp and deep, physical and mental. But it isn't about gore. Not exactly. There's no spectacle of blood, no shattered bone. The Judas chair is not about drama, it's about duration. This torment unfolds slowly, over hours, sometimes even days. You are not meant to die quickly here. You are meant to suffer, quietly, relentlessly, until time itself becomes unbearable. Some say the Judas chair was a myth, an invention of overactive minds and cruel imaginations. Others claim it was used more than people care to admit. Its use whispered about in corners of certain castles or cloisters. In some museums, you can still find them, dark, polished with time, the wood worn smooth, in all the wrong places. The evidence sits there, mute and undeniable. The mechanics in their simplicity are horrifying. Raise the victim, lower the victim, let gravity do its work, adjust as needed, repeat. In fact, some designs even had a cruel little innovation, a rotating mechanism. As you sat suspended and impaled, the chair could be turned, ever so slowly, not enough to snap anything, just enough to shift the pain, to explore new angles, to make sure no tissue was left untouched. You think of that now, as you sway slightly in your ropes, your arms ache from being suspended. You wonder about the brass knob in the corner of the frame. Is that the lever for rotation? You pray they've forgotten how to use it, or lost the key, or simply don't care enough. Today, the room stays silent. That's the worst part. There's no crowd here, no mockery, no sound of boots, no chains. Only the soft rustle of robes or leather when someone moves, the squeak of a pulley wheel, the tiny gasp of your own breathing, ragged and shallow. You try to retreat into your mind. Try to imagine a meadow, a warm hearth. You think of your sister's voice, the way she used to sing softly in the kitchen. While peeling fruit, you cling to that memory like a raft in a storm. But the pyramid reminds you you are still here, still being punished. You remember the charge, or at least you try to. Treason, perhaps, or maybe blasphemy, a rumor, a stolen coin, a careless joke. It hardly matters now. They didn't tell you much, only that you would be handled quietly. No trial, no verdict, just a chair. Sometimes, they leave you like this all night, the ropes cutting deeper into your arms, the spike pressing inward. Impossible to shift, impossible to escape. Infection sets in before long. The skin breaks, fever creeps in with a shiver. You feel the heat rising from your own body even as the stone floor stays cold. If you faint, they wait. Then, they rouse you and begin again. You no longer scream. Your voice gave out hours ago. Your throat is raw. All you can manage is a whisper, a dry rasp that echoes softly before being swallowed by the silence. One guard hums a tune under his breath as he tightens the ropes. Another smokes a pipe, eyes half-lidded with boredom. You're not a person to them, just a weight, a task, something to be hoisted and adjusted like a sack of wheat. Eventually a priest comes in. He doesn't say much, just a few quiet words in Latin, a sign of the cross, and averted eyes. He walks away, without looking back. His sandals make soft slaps on the stone floor. You don't know whether he has blessed you, or given you last rites. Hours pass, or maybe days. Time is strange in this place. You begin to drift. Sometimes you feel as though you've left your own body floating above the room, watching from the ceiling, like a ghost. You see your mother in your mind, sitting by the window, mending a tunic. You smell thyme in the air. She hums softly. The light glows on her cheek. Then you're back. The pain drags you down. A tremor shakes through your legs. Your teeth ache from clenching. And still, the Judas chair waits. At last, without fanfare, they release you. The ropes go slack. You slump forward. Your legs give out instantly. You hit the floor without grace. A heap of aching limbs and sticky blood. No one helps you up. A rough hand throws a wet cloth over your shoulders. Then, the footsteps retreat. No speeches, no punishment declared complete. Just the sound of the door shutting behind them. You lie there, breathing shallowly, eyes wide open in the dark. And even though the chair is behind you now, its shape stays with you. It leaves no great scars, no lost limbs, no broken teeth. But something inside you has shifted. Something deeper, quieter. You will carry this with you, not as a wound, but as a shadow. Not a punishment that ends, but a memory that haunts. You wake to a sound. A soft, wet drip. And then another. Like the ticking of a clock in a forgotten place. It takes you a while to realize it's water, or at least you hope it's water. You blink, slowly. Your vision is blurred. Your head is resting against cold, unforgiving stone. Your arms are stretched up above you, wrists shackled in rough iron. Your legs hang, feet brushing the ground, just barely. You're suspended, not enough to break anything, just enough to keep your body aching. Your shoulders stretch past comfort into that quiet realm of endless pain. That doesn't scream, it hums. And it's dark, truly, deeply dark. Except sometimes a weak flicker of light passes by. Never for you. No, you don't get that luxury. It's a torch perhaps, held by a passing guard, or a light, bleeding in from some hallway beyond. Not enough to see anything clearly, just shadows, the rusted links of your chain, the damp sheen on the walls, the glint in the eyes of the rats. This is the oubliette, a word from the French oublier, to forget. This isn't just a cell, it's a grave with a trapdoor, a vertical pit carved into the belly of a fortress. They open the hatch, they drop you in, they close it, and they forget you. But you don't forget, you can't, not here. The air is thick, humid with decay. It smells of rot, and old sweat, and mold that clings to everything, like cobwebs. The walls sweat, the ceiling weeps, the floor leaks, and in this silence, Every sound becomes a sentence. The rattle of your chain, the scrape of your breath, the distant scream that may or may not be real. A cough, faint, but not yours. No judge here, no sentence read, no gallows, no flame, no spectacle. Just waiting, or more accurately, losing time. Some historians argue whether oubliettes were ever used often. Were they torture chambers? Were they for condemned prisoners? Were they just cruel holding cells? Some say they were rare, others believe they swallowed more people than history will ever remember. You shift a little, pain answers, the chain tugs, your arms throb with fire, your ankles swell and burn. The rats know you now, they no longer run, one even sits still, just out of reach, nibbling something, with calm indifference. It's no longer afraid of you. You're just part of the room now. Want something strange? Some oubliettes weren't even built to let you sit. They were shaped like wine bottles, narrow at the top, wide at the bottom. You'd be lowered in and left to stand, sometimes knee-deep in water, just standing, for days, weeks, until your legs gave up, until your mind did. Your cell isn't shaped quite like that, but it's close enough. Here, time doesn't tick like it used to. You think it's been a week, or maybe more, maybe less. You've lost track. You've lost everything. Your beard is growing. Your nails scratch at stone. You dream with your eyes open. You hallucinate the sound of horses on cobblestone, the smell of warm bread, a whisper that calls your name. It's your sister's voice again, or perhaps your own, echoing from the curved walls. Echoes lie here. They come back to you, sounding like someone else. Sometimes they comfort you. Sometimes they taunt. One day, you hear your name shouted from above. You raise your head. Your heart stirs. Hope crackles like dry leaves. But then, a body crashes down beside you. Just another soul, dropped into darkness. The splash it makes is thick and cold and terrible. You make room, if there's any room to make. Or maybe, you don't. You're not even sure anymore. You don't see much now. Eventually, a rope comes down. You flinch. You don't believe it. You think it's a trick, a dream. But it comes again. And this time, a bucket. Inside bread. Hard as rock, but food. Your fingers shake as you reach for it. And when you manage to pull it to you, you almost cry. It's not mercy. It's maintenance. They want you alive, for now. Why you don't know. Maybe they need you. Maybe they're saving you for something worse. Or maybe, someday, someone will simply forget to send the rope down again. That's how this place works. Not fire, not blades, not screams. Just silence, stillness, memory. You try to hold on to details of face, a sky, a summer breeze, but they fade, like breath on glass, like trying to carry water in your palms. Drip, drip, drip. That's the only rhythm left. You think about your crime. What was it? You mocked a priest. You stole a coin. You shouted too loud, stood too tall. You made the wrong enemy. Whatever it was, it feels distant now. All sins blur here. Only the stone feels real. Only the dark. There's a reason there are no guards posted. You can't escape. You won't resist. Eventually, you won't even remember who you are. Sometimes, you hear the guards whisper. Not to tease, out of boredom. One calls down. Still breathing. You nod, though he can't see. He tosses a crust. It lands somewhere near. You crawl. You chew. It tastes like dust and rust and time. You wonder what day it is. You wonder if the sun still rises. And still, you wait. Because in the oubliette, waiting is the only thing left to do. You don't remember falling asleep. But when you open your eyes, it's morning. Or at least, it feels like morning. You're no longer in the oubliette. Somehow you've been moved. Your limbs ache with the deep memory of being dragged. Perhaps rolled up like a sack of flour, or tossed like laundry. Now you sit in a courtyard, bound hand and foot, blinking beneath a pale sky. Birds circle overhead, cawing lazily. Some settle on nearby rooftops, watching. It almost feels normal. The air is open, the light is soft. There's even a breeze brushing your face, almost, until you see the cage. It's small, unnaturally so, barely big enough for a grown man to sit cross-legged. Made of crude iron bars, some bent, some rusted, all stained with age and use. There are traces of feathers inside, dried blood along the hinges, a single long hair, snagged in the latch. It sways slightly in the morning wind, creaking. Then comes the sound that turns your stomach. A door slams open, 2 guards appear, hauling a man between them. He's wide-eyed, his face smeared with dirt and sweat. He isn't screaming in pain. He's screaming from something worse. Anticipation, fear, with a memory behind it. His voice cracks as they shove him into the iron cage. His knees hit first, then his back, then elbows, shoulders, feet folded into corners. Bones knock against iron. There is no way to get comfortable, no place to shift without pain. They slam the door, lock it. Then, with a deep groan of metal pulleys, they hoist the entire cage into the air and hook it onto a beam high above the ground. The man swings there now, dangling like a terrible wind chime. He sobs, and you realize with cold clarity, this is not a performance. This is not a lesson for someone else. This is a schedule. Your turn is next. Welcome to the world of hanging cages. Part punishment, part public display, and part cruel theater. Once you're inside, there's no space to lie down. No way to stretch. Not even enough room to breathe easily. You are folded into yourself, cramped, crooked, trembling, and then you are lifted, suspended, left there for all to see, displayed like clothing, on a drying line. Sometimes it's just for hours, sometimes for days, and sometimes until the body inside becomes quiet, still, a part of the cage itself. Eventually, what hangs is not a prisoner, but a skeleton. Some call it gibbeting, though that word more often refers to hanging corpses after execution. But this is something darker. This is for the living. You're made into an example, a warning. And now, it's your turn. The guards lift you slowly, awkwardly, into the iron belly of the cage. Your knees bang against the bars, your shoulder scrapes, one toe bends, the wrong way. You try to shift, but the more you move, the tighter it feels. Then they hoist you up. The world drops below you, and the cage begins to sway. The wind cuts through your torn shirt. You feel every bite of it, your skin, your ribs, your spine, pressed hard against the bars. You look down. People are gathering in the square. Some stop and stare. Some walk on quickly. A few laugh low and mean. Children point. A woman frowns. A man whispers something and shakes his head. You are no longer a person. You are a warning, a prop. And the cage stinks of old sweat, rust, and dried waste. You try to shift away from the sharpest edge digging into your side, but it's no use. Every movement scrapes. Metal bruises bone. Somewhere below, chickens scatter. A dog barks. Someone spits. You close your eyes, trying to vanish from your own body. But the pain is constant, and the swaying never stops. Scholars still argue about where these cages came from. France, Germany, England, or perhaps it was just one of those grim ideas that several cultures stumbled into at once. Because humans have always been creative when it comes to cruelty, and effective. This wasn't just about hurting someone. It was about reminding everyone else what happens when you cross a line. A thief, a traitor, a speaker of dangerous words, a mocker of the wrong priest, a farmer with debts, anyone. You remember reading once in some dusty record that in certain towns, the cages stayed up for so long. Birds made nests in them. One medieval story tells of a man kept alive for 4 days, fed water from a long stick, while magpies pecked at his scalp. Now, in your cage, you hear a flap of wings. A crow lands on the beam above. It waits, it knows. No one speaks to you. No one offers comfort. A guard tosses a crust of bread. It lands, just out of reach below. You stare at it for a moment, then laugh. A bitter, wheezing laugh that surprises even you. The absurdity is almost beautiful. Time stretches, your muscles cramp. The sun bakes your shoulders. Then, clouds roll in, and you shiver. Flies gather, you blink against them. Your neck can't find a place to rest. The cage sways again. You hallucinate music, faint notes that echo in the iron. A lullaby you once knew, now twisted by rust. Someone throws a stone. It hits the bars with a clang. A drunk voice chuckles and fades away. A child climbs onto a car for a better look. A woman whispers a prayer. Another spits in your direction. You understand something very specific. This isn't about you anymore. You are a message, A shape in the air that says obey, stay silent, don't steal, don't speak out. Because if you do, this is where you'll end up. You wonder how long they'll leave you here. Until someone remembers to take you down, or until no one remembers. At all. The sun sinks, your breath fogs, you close your eyes, and then a brush, soft, feathers. You open your eyes. A crow sits beside your face now, close, curious, confident. It pecks near your ear, you flinch. It hops back, waits. It knows. You won't be going anywhere, neither will the cage. And neither, it seems, will this memory etched into your skin, pressed into your bones, sealed into your mind, like rust, into iron. Your cage door groans open. Not for freedom, don't get your hopes up. No cheering crowd, no warm arms, no whisper of pardon. Just a transfer. They lower you, with all the tenderness of someone unloading old cargo. The ropes creak, the cage rocks, and then thud, you're down, or at least, the cage is. Your legs stiff from hours, maybe days of confinement, collapse beneath you, like broken sticks. The moment your feet touch the ground, a guard clicks his tongue, sighs, then without a word he grabs your collar and drags you forward, across the dusty stone courtyard. It takes a moment, for your vision to catch up. Everything is a blur, light too bright, shapes too strange. But as your eyes adjust, you see it. Not a platform, not a scaffold, not even a prison cell. Just a cart, an ordinary wooden cart. But what rests upon it is anything but ordinary. A pile of iron, thick, clinking, rust-covered pieces of it twisted and heavy. Some long like chains, others round, many jagged. They seem to shimmer dully in the morning light. You blink, still groggy. That one looks like a collar. That one like a muzzle. And that one oddly shaped like a pear. Not the kind you'd eat. No sweetness, no juice. Just cold metal, forged into a shape that mockingly mimics fruit. The pear of anguish, they call it. Though some claim it never really existed. A myth, a rumor, a whispered exaggeration in history's shadowed corners. Still, you're beginning to learn that in places like this, myths have sharp edges. A guard chuckles. He seems to be enjoying this part. He picks up one of the iron objects, a collar. Thick, grim, with spikes lining the inside. It hinges open like the jaw of some ancient beast. Before you can speak, it's clasped around your neck. Not tight enough to strangle you. No, that would be too easy. Just tight enough that each swallow becomes a slow burn. Each twitch, a silent scream. Then comes the mask. Not the playful kind worn at carnivals. Not a mask of joy, or intrigue, or beauty. This one is all mockery. A long pointed nose, hollow wide eyes, a sneering mouth frozen in ridicule. It clangs cold against your skin as it's placed over your face, bolted shut from behind. The air inside smells of rust, breath, and old sweat. It's called the shame mask. Some call it the scold's bridle. Used most often, though not exclusively, on women accused of nagging or gossip, because heaven forbid someone speak their mind. Sometimes the mask came with a bit of iron inserted into the mouth, a plate or a blade, pressing down against the tongue to stop speech. A cruel silence. You're not sure if your mask has one. You don't want to find out, but it hurts regardless. Historians debate how often these masks were truly used. Were they common or theatrical curiosities, tools of cruel communities, or scattered relics from more brutal corners of the past? But enough stories survive, enough drawings, enough remnants to confirm they were real. And real is more than enough. Some masks even had bells attached, so people could hear your humiliation coming. Your breath fogs inside the metal, hot and wet, claustrophobic. Every inhale stings, every exhale drips back down your chin. You try to wipe it away instinctively, but forget about the mask. Your hand smacks into your own metal muzzle. A guard snorts laughter, and then they march you through the market square. Your bare feet scrape over stones and dirt, shackled, hunched. The mask exaggerates every movement, making you look almost comical, which of course is the point. Townspeople gather, they always do. Some laugh, some gasp. One child mimics your face with grotesque joy until his mother slaps the back of his head. Another boy throws a cabbage. It bounces off your ribs with a soft wet thud and rolls away into the gutter. You keep walking, step by step, paraded like a joke no one remembers telling. This is punishment without blood. No whips, no blades, just the slow burning pressure of eyes, of whispers, of laughter. This is public shame crafted into performance, a theater of cruelty played out in midday sun. In some cities, offenders were chained to posts like this for days, forced to wear masks sculpted into pigs' snouts, or devils' faces, or distorted visages meant to mock the condemned's perceived moral failure. Some were even tailored to the crime. One 16th century mask bore the words for the liar and slanderer. Another had a tongue clamp built in thin blades, pinching the muscle between them, to silence lies or gossip. No, you're not walking away from this with your dignity. You're not walking away from this at all. Just walking through it. Eventually, hours later, they bring you back. The same gate, the same courtyard. Your legs are trembling, your lips are numb. The world hums around you like a bell that never stops ringing. The guard unlocks the mask with a rusty clink. Then the collar. He tosses them both back onto the cart. The iron heap clinks again, ready for the next unfortunate soul. You sit down on the stone steps outside the castle. The cold seeps into your bones. You rub your jaw. The skin is raw where the mask sat. Your pride. Well, that's rawer still. And oddly enough, you realize something strange. You miss the oubliette. That dark pit of silence, of stillness. At least there no one watched. No one laughed. No one threw rotten food. Or whispered your name with contempt. There was no parade in the dark. No stage. Just stone and solitude. Here, they've made you into something else entirely. Not a man, not even a prisoner, but a symbol, a warning, a walking lesson, and deep in your aching chest, another realization takes root. They enjoyed it, not because they hated you. No, most of them didn't even know your name, but because seeing your shame, the metal, the stumbling, the silent suffering, made them feel safer, more righteous, more in control, like justice had been served, even if they didn't know your crime. They say, fear is the foundation of order. Maybe they're right, or maybe, just maybe, it's easier to mock the mask than question the hands that fasten it. You breathe in, shallow, rub your neck. The cold wind stings the raw skin, but you're still breathing. And in this place, that means only one thing. There's more to come. You sit quietly now, in the far corner of the courtyard, where the stone walls still hold the last of the evening's shadow. The parade is over. The voices are gone. The laughter, too. And so, for a while, the silence feels kind, cool and soft like the breath of twilight. The cage still hangs above you, its door yawning open, like the hollow mouth of some great iron creature, empty now, and the shame mask, the mask, lies discarded in a shallow puddle nearby, face down, its sneering iron lips half submerged as if even it is weary of mockery. It looks like the molted shell of a nightmare, forgotten by the dreamer who once wore it. You think you might rest, just for a little while, but that peace, too, is fleeting. A low, sharp whistle slices through the air, and you flinch. A guard stands across the yard. Arm raised, he waves you over. No gentleness in his gesture. His smile is thin, forced, humorless, like a man pretending to enjoy a cruel joke. He didn't write. You rise, limping. Every step is a tremble, but you obey, because what choice do you have? When you reach him, he doesn't speak, just grabs your arm and pulls you along toward a small dark stone building near the outer wall. You've never been inside, but you've heard stories. This isn't a cell, not a stable, not a place to hold you. It's something far worse. You smell it before you fully see it. Rust, iron, something like old blood. And then your eyes catch it, the shape, the wheel. Ah yes, the infamous breaking wheel. The Catherine wheel, some call it, named with bitter irony, after St. Catherine of Alexandria, a woman whose wisdom defied empire, a woman whose name became shackled forever to this device of torment. No, this is no carnival ride, no spinning joy. This is a thick wagon wheel, its long wooden spokes reaching outward, like arms of fate. It's mounted horizontally on a tall post, worn smooth by years of use. There are stains along the rim, dark, dry ones, chips in the wood, where metal has met bone, dents along the edge, deep ones, so many. Some say the wheel began in ancient Greece, others believe the Romans passed it down, but by the time it reached medieval Europe, it had evolved. Not into a relic of war, but into a ritual, a slow ceremony of destruction, as practiced and precise as any art form, just darker. And now, you're a part of it. You're strapped to a bench first, arms stretched out, ankles bound tight. The lever pulls your skin. Your heart pounds, not just with fear, but with a strange, quiet resignation. A man steps forward, dressed in black, not tall, not loud. His face is blank, unreadable. Perhaps the executioner, or maybe just a man who lost a wager. He carries an iron bar, long, heavy, blunt. He walks to your side, holds the bar aloft, and pauses. He points to your legs, right, then left. He seems to be counting. From the doorway, another voice calls out a list. Calm, measured. Upper arm, lower arm, shin, thigh. There's no chaos here, only sequence. You realize slowly that they aren't trying to kill you. Not yet. They're trying to break you. Literally. Piece by piece. It's part of the design you see. The wheel isn't just about pain. It's about patience, timing. The body must suffer, yes, but it must also last. Enough to become a display. And then without warning, the first blow lands. It isn't a crack. It's a crunch. A dull, sickening sound that doesn't even feel real. At first, your body goes rigid, your mouth opens, but nothing comes out, just a silent gasp. Your brain flails. It scrambles like a bird trapped beneath ice. Then the pain rushes in and you scream. A sound ripped from the very center of you. The kind of scream that echoes in your own ears. Another blow. This time your left leg. You twist, or try to, but the bindings hold fast. They always hold. They must. Because when this is done, your body will be bent, reshaped, wrapped around the wheel like a ribbon around a wreath. For some, the final form is symbolic. Arms and legs weaved between the spokes, bones shattered just enough to fold. For others, the wheel becomes a post of display, a perch of agony, victims tied on top, their limbs broken but still intact enough to move, to twitch. Some are granted mercy, a final blow to the head or the chest, a quick end, but only after the performance has satisfied the audience. You don't yet know which fate awaits you. Perhaps it depends on who's watching today. There's a whisper that the wheel was only used for the worst of crimes. Murder, treason, heresy. But that's a myth. Records show otherwise. It was used for theft, for blasphemy, for magic, for being in the wrong place, with the wrong name, at the wrong time. And here's a bitter truth. There's a record of a man broken on the wheel because his sheep kept escaping and eating a noble's roses. Yes, sheep. That's the thought in your head when the bar comes down again. This time, on your arm, and it snaps like kindling. There's something surreal about the whole thing. The idea that suffering can be portioned out, measured, administered with a list, as if pain were a recipe. The man in black is sweating now, not from sorrow, just from effort. He wipes his brow, lifts the bar again, and then something stranger still. You realize you're still conscious, still awake, still you, even as your body begins to feel like it no longer belongs to you. Eventually, the ropes are loosened, and your body, what's left of it, is lifted, folded onto the wheel, limbs dangling, twisted, heavy with pain. They hoist the wheel upright, mount it in the earth like a terrible scarecrow, and there you are, dangling against the sky, bent, broken, displayed. For how long? That depends. Sometimes it's hours, sometimes days. One 14th century tale tells of a man who lasted 3 days, whispering to his own ruined arms, while the crows waited patiently nearby. Another speaks of a woman displayed like a holy relic. Townspeople came. Some prayed, others pointed. Some wept, some laughed. Always, some watched. You drift. In and out of pain, in and out of sleep. The sky changes above you. Rain comes light at first, then steadier. It drips down your cheeks, mixing with blood and sweat. Somewhere, a bell rings. Somewhere else, a dog barks. A baby cries. And through it all, you hang there, alive, or something close to it. Eventually, someone comes, carrying a stick, a final gift. You don't feel the blow, only hear it. A heavy thunk, like a mallet striking wood. And then stillness. Not silence, not sleep. Stillness. So total, so vast. It almost feels warm. Darkness comes and goes. Or maybe it's just your mind, flickering like a dying candle. You're no longer sure where you are. still on the wheel, still in pain, or has something shifted? There's a pause, a quiet, and then, slowly, painfully, you realize you've been moved again. Not up, not out, but down. Down into something tighter, hotter, smellier. Like descending not just into a room, but into a sentence. Your body aches, muscles sore from restraint, limbs trembling from exposure. But now something new containment. A wooden room, or more precisely, a box. You're sitting now, cramped, knees pressed hard to your chest, your back against damp wooden boards, slick with condensation. Or is it something else? It's too low to stand, too short to stretch. Your spine curls, like a question mark. The air inside is stale and thick, sour with the mingled scent of sweat, rot, old breath, and something deeper, something earthy. You try to shift, but there's no room. Only the scrape of wood on skin, and then it hits you. You've been stuffed, inside the punishment barrel. Oh yes, the medievals, with their endless flair for discomfort and psychological warfare. They knew that not all punishment required fire or blades. Sometimes, all it took was a tight fit, and time, and eyes. This device, simple, crude, merciless, is known in some parts as the drunkard's cloak. Elsewhere, they call it the shaming barrel, a hollowed-out wooden cask once used for wine or ale, now repurposed as humiliation. Your arms stick out from two holes crudely cut into the sides. Your head juts through the top, like a child's toy. Your legs dangle awkwardly beneath. You're a grotesque marionette, on display. And the smell, that's not just you. Others were here before, many others. The wood has absorbed centuries of suffering. This isn't just punishment, it's spectacle. Villagers pass by. They don't avert their eyes. They stare. Some point, some laugh openly. You hear the clatter of footsteps on stone, the rustle of skirts, the low hum of gossip. Carried on the wind, a few curious souls toss scraps of food, or things barely passing as food. Stale crusts, wilted vegetables. One boy flings a chicken bone, it bounces off your chest, and lands with a wet thud in the slop at your feet. Children invent a game, hit the barrel. Sticks and stones, rocks and ridicule. Every strike echoes hollowly, the barrel ringing like a crude drum of shame. You brace for each one, flinching, eyes closed tight. But the rhythm is never predictable. That's the worst part. This was never limited to criminals. In some towns, drunkards ended up here after one too many tankards. In others, petty thieves, gossips, bakers who cheated the weight of bread loaves, even those who simply angered the wrong person. Those who dared speak out of turn, or mock a noble's fashion, could find themselves barrel-bound by morning. A tale from 15th century England claims one unfortunate soul wore his barrel every Sunday for a full year. Was it true, or just a parable whispered to frighten children into silence during Mass? No one can say. But the image stuck. And now, that image is you. You swaying in the town square like an overturned turtle. You stewing in your own sweat and shame. You smelling of mildew, regret, and vinegar-soaked punishment. And the worst part, there's no privacy. In humiliation, in pain, you can retreat inward. You can scream into yourself, cling to thoughts, memories, mantras. But shame is social. Shame is exposed. In the barrel, you're not a person. You're a joke, a warning, a walking punchline without a laugh track. Someone ties a sign around your neck. You can't see it, but you can guess. Liar, thief, fool, traitor. Take your pick. This town loves labels. The guards lean you against a post so you don't tip over. How thoughtful. And just to complete the ensemble, someone, maybe the cook, pours something sticky into the barrel. Sour wine, kitchen slop, old stew water. It pools around your thighs, warm and slow. You try not to move, but moving only makes it worse. You grimace. The scent rises with the heat. This can last hours, or days. Some victims were left overnight, others carted to festivals. And in a strange twist, perhaps the cruelest detail of all, there were places where the condemned were forced to dance in the barrel. Yes, dance. They'd be herded into the market square. Musicians would gather, pipes, drums, flutes, children clapping, the town watching. And you forced to jig and stumble in the barrel, hopping like a grotesque puppet, the sloshing muck beneath you, making every movement harder. The laughter grows. You try to shift, your legs are starting to cramp. The barrel tilts slightly, one of the guards barks. Another splashes cold water over your head. It runs down your back, inside your collar. A final mockery of relief. You gasp, teeth chattering. Not from cold, from helplessness. You're not going anywhere, and oddly this is what breaks you. Not the rack, not the collar, not the iron mask, but the barrel, this wooden tomb of laughter and judgment. Because pain can be rationalized. You can tell yourself it's penance, part of justice, part of some ancient balance. But shame, that feels personal, arbitrary, mean. And maybe that's the point. To make you look absurd, to make you forgettable, to make you small. Not dangerous, not dignified. Just silly, just sad. Even the animals ignore you. A goat sniffs the barrel, sneezes, walks away. The sun arcs high, then lower. You bake, then shiver. Sweat dries into salt. Your limbs tingle, then go numb. Your chin slumps to your chest. Time loses meaning. The world shrinks to the beat of your heart and the buzz of flies orbiting your ears. A handful of flower petals flutter down. Not kindness. A wedding party passes by. Their joy is a language you no longer speak. You catch the bride's eye. She flinches, looks away, and for a moment, you almost apologize. Eventually, how long has it been? They lift the lid. The world outside is too bright. The air smells like freedom and rain. They tilt the barrel. You spill out like spoiled soup, slumped, blinking, half-conscious. No one helps you stand. You wobble, your back groans. Your pride is a crater, but you're breathing, you're free, still the fool, but the fool who endured. And that, somehow, feels like a strange sort of victory. You wake, with straw in your mouth, dry, scratchy, musty. It sticks to your tongue like old parchment. You cough, the sound echoes faintly in the morning air. The smell hits you next. Damp hay, rusted metal, the faintly sweet tang of fermented apples. And beneath it all, something sour, sweat, urine, the ghost of yesterday's punishment. The village square carries its own bouquet. Your arms ache, your shoulders burn. Your ankles itch as though the fleas had been dancing all night. And your back, it feels like it's been folded in half and pinned there. You try to shift, just a little, but the effort is futile. The pillory has you now. A rough wooden board clamps tight over your neck, and wrists locking you in a bent forward position. Your head juts out awkwardly. Your hands stretch straight ahead, stiff and useless. Your legs shake beneath you. Gravity, you realize, is a harsh companion. You're on display again. Public, vulnerable, unmissable. A deep sigh escapes your lips. Loudly, from somewhere nearby, a child echoes it in exaggerated fashion, mocking. A laugh follows light and sharp. You don't look. You don't need to. You've been here before. This isn't your first rodeo. Pillories, stocks, whatever you call them, they're the bread and butter of medieval public punishment. Brutally simple, no blood, no fire, just discomfort, spectacle, shame. A community favorite, equal parts entertainment and deterrent. Uncomfortable enough to be unpleasant, public enough to be humiliating, and familiar enough to be used frequently. And here's the cruel truth. The pillory doesn't pretend to be justice. It's not about reflection, not even really about penance. It's about you becoming an object lesson. A physical signpost reading, "Don't be like me." Whether your crime was theft, gossip, drunkenness, or skipping 3 church services in a row. This is what you've earned. A living statue, arms outstretched like a scarecrow. Except the birds don't fear you. They just perch nearby, curious. You feel something on your forehead. A crude sketch. Someone's already drawn a picture or a slur in charcoal. Maybe worse. Of course they have. Public punishment invites public art. You try to frown, but your neck's stiff. You can't even see what the insult is. A chicken pecks near your feet. You twitch in surprise, but can't swat it away. Your fingers hover just out of reach. The irony isn't lost on you. Man once powerful and proud, now helpless before poultry. Time passes, slowly. Your knees start to lock. Pillories were never built for comfort. The wood chafes your skin. Splinters press into your wrists. A slow burning ache creeps up your spine. Your jaw sags from the strain. You wonder how long will this last? 3 hours, 6. Overnight. Historians still debate whether pillory durations were standardized. Some towns likely had fixed terms. Others left it to the discretion or mood of a local magistrate. In 13th century York, one man was reportedly locked in the pillory for a full 24 hours during a thunderstorm. For impersonating a monk, he may not have repented, but he definitely left with pneumonia. Your sentence unknown. It could depend on the crime, or the crowd. And this crowd, oh, they've come prepared. A woman shouts something. A tomato sails through the air, misses by inches, splattering against the stone wall behind you. Close, a boy laughs and hurls a clump of mud. That one connects, right on your chin. A roar of approval follows. You are now entertainment, today's main event. The closest thing to reality television in a world without electricity. There's a rhythm to public humiliation. The first hour is rowdy, loud. Lots of shouting, throwing, taunts. Then things quiet down. People get bored. They return to their stalls, their animals, their chores. What remains are the drunkards, the bitter, and the especially bored. Someone spits. You feel it hit your ear. Charming. Your thoughts drift. Not to escape, but to curiosity. The pillory was versatile. It wasn't reserved solely for thieves. It welcomed a wide cast. Adulterers, blasphemers, slanderers. Even bakers who short-weighed their bread. A strangely common medieval crime, it seems. Bread. Always bread. Maybe because it was sacred. Maybe because it was survival. You recall reading about nobles punished this way. Nobles. Yes, even those with titles and estates could find themselves publicly ridiculed, courtesy of rival factions. Nothing erodes arrogance like being hit in the face with a turnip. The pillory had cousins too. Stocks locked the ankles. The cucking stool dunked gossipy women into rivers. The shrew's fiddle clamped neck and wrists in front, raising the hands like a forced mime. All creative, non-comfortable, but the pillory. This was the classic, the gold standard of shame. You glance sideways, as far as the wood embrace allows. Another prisoner stands nearby, young, terrified, eyes red and wet. She sniffles, trembling, like a leaf in winter. You want to say something comforting, anything, but your jaw's tight, your throat dry, and words wouldn't reach anyway. Then drizzle, thin rain begins to fall. The sky grays, the crowd disperses even faster. Surprisingly, the rain helps. It cools your burning skin, softens the rough wood, mutes the jeers and laughter. You close your eyes. Just for a moment, it feels peaceful, almost cleansing, until you remember the placement. Pillories were often positioned in the worst possible spots, next to dung heaps, near tanneries, or under the eaves of latrines where chamber pots were dumped with impunity. Medieval sanitation was neither subtle nor kind. A warm splash lands on your boot. You don't ask what it is. You don't want to know. You just sigh again. This time quieter, wiser. Then a hand. Small, hesitant, offering a piece of bread. Hard as stone, likely stale. But it's kind. A child, not mocking, not cruel. Just curious, maybe even empathetic. You fumble it clumsily between stiff fingers, like a squirrel trying to eat with mittens. You manage a half nod. Your eyes do the thanking. It's the only thing they can still do. That one moment small, human lingers. The guard returns. Heavy boots on wet stone. Keys jangle. He fumbles with the latch. The pillory creaks open with a groan like a waking beast. You collapse forward. Numb arms dangle. Your spine protests. Knees buckle. You stagger off the platform like a puppet with cut strings. You're free, sort of. The world is blurry. Too bright, too loud. But you are no longer bound. No longer a symbol. Just a man again. Or perhaps a shadow of one. You hobble away from the square slow, unsteady, unsure what to feel. Relief, shame, bitterness. Who are you now? A criminal, a clown, a cautionary tale. Maybe all three, but you survived. And in the brutal theater of public pain and pity, sometimes survival is the closest thing to redemption. You're not sure how they dragged you here. Maybe you walked, maybe they carried you. You remember fragments shouting, rough hands, boots on stone, the press of cold metal. But now those details blur, replaced by one searing reality. You're in a stone chamber, alone, suspended. Your arms are pulled high above your head, wrists shackled in heavy iron cuffs that bite into raw skin. You're not hanging fully. Your toes just graze the straw-scattered floor, but the strain is enough. Your shoulders groan, your elbows scream. Every tendon feels stretched to its limit, like a bowstring ready to snap. This you realize with sick certainty is the strappado. At first, there is silence, the kind of silence that hums thick, heavy, oppressive. oppressive, broken only by the creaking rope above you, swaying gently with your weight. The sound is rhythmic, predictable, and cruel. The pain begins quietly too. A slow burn across your upper arms, a throb behind the elbows, a gathering fire in the joints. For a moment you think, maybe this isn't so bad, you can handle this. But that thought fades as your full weight settles, and the stretch begins in earnest. You grit your teeth, a mistake. The pressure intensifies, the sockets grind, your breath hitches. Each minute becomes longer than the last. The strappado was favored by inquisitors for a reason. It's tidy, clean, there's no blood, no visible scars. Just physics and gravity, and the art of pain measured in angles. One pull on the rope, and your shoulders flare with agony. 2 pulls, and your vision flickers. 3, and you feel something move inside your upper arm. Not quite a pop, but close. A grinding slide, a warning. You hang there, swaying like a broken marionette. You wonder how many have hung like this before you. How many people, guilty, innocent, or somewhere in between, had their truths yanked from them, bone by bone, in chambers like this. You wonder how many whispered lies just to make it stop. Historians still debate whether strappado was effective for truth-telling or simply terror. But you already know the answer. When the choices are unbearable pain or fabricated guilt, most people break. Your arms now feel aflame. You try to flex your fingers, a few twitch, others remain limp, hanging uselessly from numb nerves. But it's not over. You can feel it. There's a trick they like to use. Just as the pain is cresting, when your mind begins to drift, when your body starts adapting, they drop you. Not completely, not enough to hit the ground. Just a sudden sharp slack in the rope, followed by a violent stop. Your body jerks downward, then whips to a halt. The force pulls your shoulders beyond where they were meant to go. It happens now. Your body drops. The joints jolt. Your breath rips free from your chest. And you scream. But it's not a full-throated scream. There's no breath for that. It's a wrenching gasp. A strangled moan forced through clenched teeth. A sound that doesn't echo. It just dies in the cold stone. You hear scribbling. A quill scratching parchment. The guard is writing something. Perhaps he's recording your response. Perhaps he's doodling to pass the time. You don't know. You don't care. The strappado isn't theatrical like the rack. It's not gory like the Iron Maiden. But it's efficient, quiet, intimate in its cruelty. Victims often left with torn ligaments, severed nerves, shattered pride. Some never regained full use of their arms. Others were never able to dress or feed themselves again. Some never made it out at all. A voice enters the room. Low, calm, almost bored. It asks a question. The words are muffled. You can't understand. Latin maybe, or French, or something older. You try to focus, but your ears ring. Your skull vibrates with pain. You try to shake your head. Barely an inch of movement. The rope creaks again. Another threat, another promise. And then without warning, your brain betrays you. It conjures a memory, a childhood moment. Dappled sunlight in the orchard. Your mother's hands slicing a pear. She presses the wedge into your palm, smiling. The fruit is warm, sweet, fragrant. You can still taste it. The mind holds strange priorities under torture. You are lowered slightly, a moment of mercy, just enough to ease the burning in your joints, just enough to remind you that they are in control. The voice returns, sharper now, more insistent. You still don't answer. Another drop. This time you don't scream. You don't even moan. You make a whimper, animal-like, pitiful. The smallest sound. You barely recognize it as your own. The pain doesn't sharpen now. It spreads. Like ink in water. It floods your chest, your arms, your back. It becomes everywhere. Not a point of agony, a blanket of it. You close your eyes, and you wait. Time becomes meaningless in this place. There are no windows, no sun, no clocks. Only creaking, breathing, hurting. Then without ceremony, they untie you. You fall, crashing to the stone like a bag of bones. Your arms flop beside you, dead weight. You try to move, but nothing responds. You lie still, gasping. The guard sighs. He sounds almost bored. He grabs you by the collar and drags you. The stone floor tears at your knees. Your feet leave lines in the straw. You don't resist. You can't. They drop you in a corner. The wall is cold. You press your cheek against it. A crack runs through the stone. You stare at it blurry-eyed. It looks like a river, or a tree, or lightning. And then, a sound. Footsteps, then a cup. Water. Warm. Metallic. Tastes of old tin, but it might as well be gold. You reach for it, fumbling, failing. It takes 3 tries before your fingers grip the rim. You raise it with trembling hands. Water spills down your chin, but some reaches your mouth, and it is the best thing you've ever tasted. You drink, you breathe, and for the first time in hours, maybe days, your thoughts begin to return. The pain is still there, and the exhaustion, the hollowness, but so are you. You're still here, bruised, shaking, nearly broken, but not broken completely. In all the darkness, there is a clarity forming, a realization. The punishments were never just about forcing truth or even deterrence. They were about control, about making bodies into stories, warnings, examples. You were meant to be a symbol of weakness, a signpost in human form. But somehow, despite the pain, despite the silence, you've become something else. Not a victim, not quite, but a witness, a survivor. You look up. There, high on the wall, is a window. Tiny, framed in iron, but through it, unmistakable. Sky, a patch of blue. So calm, so wide, so free. And for the first time in what feels like forever, you rest your head against the stone, close your eyes, and breathe. Not in fear, not in panic, but in defiance. Your journey may not be over, but you are still here. And that in itself is a quiet kind of victory.